oral questions. Question orale. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Tomorrow, the NDP Liberal government will willingly increase inflation in Canada by stubbornly maintaining its carbon tax height. That's not nothing. Everything that needs to be shipped will cost more, and in exactly 1 week, the Minister of Finance will table the first NDP Liberal coalition budget. More spending, more intrusion in areas under provincial jurisdiction, no plan to return to balanced budget. NDP members are applauding. But the silence of the Liberal MPs speaks louder than that. Why are they staying silent when Canadians are asking for some respite? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, for a number of years, we have and are delivering on promises to Canadians. In other words, that we would be there for them to support them. And this week, in fact, we are continuing this work with significant announcements on the fight against climate change and significant announcements on reconciliation, and also major announcements on daycare services across the country, $10 per day in the next 5 years. And we on this side of the House are continuing to work for Canadians, and we're continuing to focus on them. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The NDP Liberals tomorrow will ensure that life costs more for all Canadians by increasing the carbon tax. When this left-wing government boasts about the economy, it forgets to say that the current hike in inflation is generating billions in additional revenues for the government. Next week, the government will have a choice. Use these revenues to help Canadian families by reducing taxes, or implement the NDP election platform. The Prime Minister has to pick families or his own political future. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, all Canadians, apparently except Conservative politicians, know that the cost of inaction against climate change will be far more expensive than investments and responsible parameters. We know that putting a price on carbon and not letting it be free to pollute is the right way to move forward, not only to protect our planet for our kids and grandkids, but also to help growth and create good jobs. It's only the Conservative members who believe that we believe that the economy and the environment go together. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. On another subject, Mr. Speaker, no one believes this Prime Minister anymore when he says he's a feminist. The General Vance case shows that the Prime Minister has a double talk. The Canadian Forces Ombudsman informed the clerk, the Minister, and the Office of the Prime Minister about the General's actions. The Ombudsman was right, and the Minister of Defence did nothing, nor did the Prime Minister. How can victims trust this Prime Minister, who instead of taking action and punishing inappropriate and unacceptable behaviour, has turned a blind eye and blamed others? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the men and women serving within the Canadian Armed Forces deserve an environment that protects them, supports them, and provides them the resources that they need in order to ensure that they will have the necessary support in case of misconduct. We must also transform the culture within the Canadian Forces, which we are doing. Yes, it's a lot of work, and it is taking too long, but we will continue to focus on this every day in order to ensure that the Canadian Armed Forces can be there for all those who decide to serve their country.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. General Vance, this sad, sick story is not just about his conduct. The Ombudsman told the clerk, the Minister, the Prime Minister's office, and collectively they turned a blind eye. Instead of being investigated, charged, and disciplined, the General was extended in his post and given a raise. Instead of removing the Minister, the Prime Minister reappointed him to Cabinet and supported the cover-up. Why?
Unbelievable. Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, from the very beginning, we've been focused on ensuring that the Canadian Armed Forces work environment and culture is worthy of the women and men who choose to serve the armed forces. We need to make sure that we are continuing to transform the culture, continuing to create supports and resources for everyone who serves in the armed forces. No one should be in a toxic work environment. No one should face harassment, intimidation, but particularly not people who are choosing to set their lives on the line for their country.
The honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the victims of General Vance would agree with the Prime Minister today. When the Ombudsman went to the former Defence Minister and told him that General Vance was engaged in sexual misconduct and harassment, the former Defence Minister showed the Ombudsman the door. Instead of launching an investigation, as he was obligated to do, the Minister told General Vance about his accusations and gave him a raise. How does this government expect survivors to feel comfortable coming forward with this track record of protecting a perpetrator who has abused his power?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Once again, as a government, we have demonstrated through our actions, through our support, through our investments, the need to ensure safe working environments for everyone, including and especially people who choose to serve their country through Canadian Armed Forces. Obviously, we fundamentally disagree with the characterizations and the picture painted by the members opposite, who are trying to score cheap political points on the fact that we need to, all of us, work together to transform for the better the culture of the armed forces, and that's what we're doing.
Order.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government has allowed for the loosening of restrictions on visas for refugees coming to Quebec or Canada. Now, we mustn't let the wealth of refugees be a criteria. It's about fairness, about ensuring that people who are vulnerable are not made more vulnerable. The solution seems to be a humanitarian airlift. Is the Prime Minister in agreement to put in place immediately an airlift? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to be there for Ukraine and Ukrainians fleeing war. We are acting as quickly as possible and as efficiently and safely as possible to allow them to come to Canada. And there is no limit on the number of applications. All those who come to Canada under these measures will be allowed to have open work permits and will be able to quickly get to work if they wish. Canadians remain stand in solidarity with Ukrainians, and we will continue to welcome them with open arms. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian government is promoting inclusion and fully subscribes to that. To do that, there are positive measures. For example, anonymous candidacy when you're looking at assessing candidates, or subsidies for some candidates. Exclusion, however, is unhealthy and it is divisive. Does the Prime Minister agree that when it comes to research, exclusion is not the solution? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government has always supported scientists and researchers who play a crucial role in our country's progress, including in fighting COVID-19. Our investments and our programs support science and research that is of international renown. We will provide the additional resources necessary to all researchers and scientists and to position Canada as a leader in innovation. We will continue to support a scientific and research ecosystem that is solid and that reflects all of the talents of all Quebecers and all Canadians. The honourable member for Rosemount Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have folded like a cheap suit yet again before the oil and gas sector, when the Prime Minister promised the entire world that he would reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Yet this week, he promised to increase oil production instead of investing in green energy and jobs. The Liberals are giving preferential treatment to the oil companies who will get rich at the expense of our environment. This is unacceptable, offensive, and flies in the face of the climate emergency. Why is this government giving gifts to major oil companies while the entire planet is burning? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions is one of the most exhaustive in the world. We have outlaid in a credible fashion the way that each sector must act in order to meet our climate targets. They're ambitious targets. I'm not the only one to say it. The Canadian Climate Institute, Equiterre, Clean Prosperity, and other scientists have all approved our plan. We promised an ambitious and achievable plan that will allow us to reduce pollution and create possibilities for Canadians, and that is exactly what our plan will allow us to do. We will always be there to fight against climate change and support the middle class.
Honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Well, at COP26, this Prime Minister promised the world he'd finally put a cap on greenhouse gas emissions, but if you look at his new climate scheme, you can scratch that promise because he's given billions to the oil lobby to increase production on the fantasy of capturing carbon. That public money should be invested in energy workers to create a truly Canadian clean energy revolution. We have the skill to do this, but we have a Prime Minister who's broken every climate promise he has made. Doesn't he get it? That the clock is ticking, the planet is burning, and the window of opportunity is rapidly closing.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we just put forward the most ambitious and concrete emissions reduction plan this country has ever seen. Every part of the country and every sector of our economy has a critical role to play to meet our 2030 climate targets. As we made clear in the last election, we will cap emissions from oil and gas and ensure the sector reaches net zero by 2050. Our plan is informing our approach to cap and cut for emissions from oil and gas, and consultations are ongoing to make sure we design the right approach for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Well, tomorrow it's April Fool's Day, and the Prime Minister is raising carbon taxes again. That adds another 11 cents to the litre of gasoline. Excise taxes are going up, CPP premiums are going up, GST revenues are going up, interest rates are going up, and all of these increases are driving inflation and the cost of living for Canadians. Does the minister not realize that inflation is spiraling out of control, and will Canada's first NDP budget deliver a plan to fight inflation?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's recall a bit of history here. Canada entered this crisis in a strong fiscal position, allowing the government to take decisive action to put in place the supports that Canada needed during the worst health crisis in a century. Our response to COVID, $511 billion invested in the lives, the livelihoods, the communities, the provinces of this country, kept people in their homes and in their jobs. Mr. Speaker, while the other side is fighting itself over leadership, we're going to keep fighting for Canadians and affordability every day.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, first-time homebuyers with good wages want to get out of their parents' basements. It's a slap to the face to find out that Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation now offers government-backed mortgages with a 50-year amortization to landlords, yet denies first-time homebuyers a 25-year mortgage. Why is this SPENDP Liberal coalition fighting for more spending and lending to help the profits of big corporate landlords while leaving millennials out in the cold?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, maybe the Honourable Member needs to have a conversation with his colleague from Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry, who stood up in the House last week and said that we should not help first-time homebuyers. He should have a conversation with his member from Calgary Centre, who said we should cut back on the National Housing Strategy. He should help the Honourable Member from Mission, Matsqui, Fraser Canyon, who tries to table their platform in this House and can't find the term affordable housing in the Conservative plan. That's their record, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Montreal is now saying there's a full-scale attack on Canadian home prices. Banks are raising interest rates and housing inventory is at an all-time low. The budget's next week, Mr. Speaker, and the average Canadian home price is a staggering $868,000. To the Minister, how much of this budget will Canadians actually be able to afford?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
We are moving ahead to make sure that we implement the Housing Accelerator Fund to offer more housing supply. We are enhancing and committed to enhancing the first-time homebuyer incentive and making sure that we move forward on an innovative rent-to-own program that will turn more Canadian renters into homebuyers. But what did they do? They voted against a tax on foreign-owned, non-recreational residential properties. They are on record in saying that we should pull back investments through the National Housing Strategy. They are on record in talking down the first-time homebuyer incentive, a program that will help more Canadians become homeowners, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, it might not be a marriage of love, but it's certainly one of convenience for this NDP Liberal government. Here are some demands from the NDP platform. They say they'll raise the capital gains tax inclusion to 75%. They said that they'll raise the corporate tax rate to 18%. They said that they'll tax successful businesses with an excess profit tax. They will make life more unaffordable for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister couldn't get the confidence of the majority of voters, so he bought the confidence of this House. And my question is how much is it going to cost Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to something as serious as the nation's finances, it's important to separate partisan posturing from the facts. We've seen the partisan posturing. Now for some facts, Mr. Speaker. The fact is that the world's two leading rating agencies, S&P and Moody's, have reaffirmed Canada's AAA credit rating. Our economy grew again in January, Mr. Speaker, and that is the 8th consecutive month of economic growth. That is prudent leadership, and that is stewardship of the economy that all Canadians can be proud of.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, we want to hear the government talk about inflation, which is a global inflation. In Switzerland, it's 1.5%, Japan 1.7%, Norway 3.7%, still under the shocking rate of 5.7% in Canada. The government can compare itself to the best and tell us how it intends to slow inflation, which is constantly undermining the purchasing power of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. They're very clear. The latest figures for inflation was 5.7%. In the U.S., 7.9% were lower than in the average of the G7, which is 5.8%, and the average of the OECD at 7.2%. This side can fight over the leadership race, and we're looking towards the interests of Canadians. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. They could at least answer the question, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Party has no idea of the drama that our constituents are experiencing. We meet them every weekend, and what do they talk to us about? About the groceries prices and gas and houses that are unaffordable. When will they do something? It's time. The Honourable Minister of Tourism and the Associate Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, let's remind ourselves of the facts. Canada entered the crisis in a very strong financial position, allowing the government to invest in Canadians. We invested $511 million in the lives of Canadians, in communities, businesses, provinces, in Quebec, across the country, in order to help them and to avoid the worst depression since the 1930s. On this side, we're working. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, a call for candidates at Laval University under the Research Chairs of Canada framework is generating lots of discussions because it excludes white people. There are many ways to promote diversity within our institutions, and the principle itself is laudable. We could talk about unanimous CVs. This is one means among many. Exclusion is not one of those means. Exclusion is not inclusion. Does the government agree that the exclusion of candidates is not a good idea? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our government supports all researchers and scientists. Over the last 7 years, we have helped to rebuild the scientific sector with and establish a good international reputation. We have a strong research and development sector that represents Canadian interests. It's the important and the smart thing to do, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Drummond. Exclusion of an answer is not a good idea either, Mr. Speaker. Exclusion is not a method of inclusion. It's not a method of inclusion, and although well-intended, it creates division. At present, there are competent young researchers who have nothing to do with past discriminatory practices, and they can't even apply. In the name of equal opportunity, these people are being denied their fair chance. Equal opportunity means, at the very least, that everybody gets a fair chance. Does the government agree that exclusion is the wrong way to go? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, after a decade of neglect by the Conservatives under Stephen Harper, our government has always supported researchers and scientists. We are determined to provide the resources and tools required by our scientists to improve health, environment, and Canada's economy in order to position Canada as a leader in innovation. The honourable member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-Les Basques. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the government says it's basing its decisions on scientists, but when it comes to funding research, it's the government who gives science the criteria. And it's not without some risk, Mr. Speaker. Science is neutral, objective, and apolitical. And it is under those conditions that it moves forward and allows us to improve everyone's lives without discrimination. Does the government recognize that it should never, under any circumstances, allow criteria imposed by the federal government to block scientific progress? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for that question.
Science back after a decade of neglect, Mr. President. And not only is it back, but it's a scientific community that looks a lot like Canada does right now. We applaud scientific research institutions that are taking steps to include diversity and inclusion in their hiring practices, and will always support Canadian researchers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary-Forest Lawn.
The immigration minister introduced biometrics exemptions for some Ukrainians. But it seems that common sense is not so common with this NDP Liberal government. A 5-year-old might be exempt, but the mother has to wait weeks or months to get biometrics done. This makes no sense and is proof of inaction by this government, just like in Afghanistan, and puts them into the never-ending Liberal-made immigration backlog. Will the minister put his ego aside, honor the will of this parliament, listen to Ukrainians' pleas, and implement visa-free travel for Ukrainians?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to share with this House that we've now had more than 12,000 Ukrainians arrive in Canada since the beginning of the year. 2 weeks ago today, we launched a new program that would expedite the arrival of Ukrainians, and we've now seen 12,000 more approvals under this new program in just the last 2 weeks. We're going to continue to do what we can to welcome as many people as possible, and we'll follow the advice of security experts, including to eliminate the requirement for biometrics for children, for seniors, and those with a travel history to Canada. I look forward to continuing my work with all members of this House across parties to ensure we welcome as many people as possible who are fleeing this horrific and unjust war of aggression.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Christina was 9 months pregnant when this war broke out, and she had her baby in an underground bomb shelter. She now needs to make her way through a war zone to get biometrics in Poland. With a brand new baby and a toddler in tow, Liberal red tape is delaying people fleeing war. Liberal red tape are keeping people in conflict zones. When will the government show compassion and allow visa-free travel for Christina and the thousands just like her?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question and for her compassion. As the parent of an infant child, I can't even imagine the horrific circumstances someone like Christina is dealing with as she flees this horrific war. We put forward measures that were going to expedite the arrival, and so far we are seeing this is one of the largest and fastest humanitarian efforts in the history of Canada. We are responding in real time to a crisis in a way that not just gets people here quickly, but gets people here in a way that we trust can be secure. I'm not worried about the security threat this particular individual provides, but others who may try to come into the program, including people who have been fighting in the Donbass and eastern Ukraine over the last 8 years, are something we need to address. We're going to do this in a responsible way and bring as many people here as quickly as possible.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, Ukraine is attempting to negotiate peace with a cruel dictator, but Putin cannot be trusted. Ukraine needs military aid, and they need it now. President Zelensky asked Canada and NATO for armored personnel carriers and more missiles. While the Russians continue to wage war, Canada can give Ukraine our Harpoon missiles for coastal defense, and we can also give them our light armored vehicles that are being decommissioned right now, like our Coyotes, our Bisons, and our M113s. Will the Prime Minister immediately give Ukraine the lethal defensive equipment it needs so they can win this war?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Minister has said many times, we are leaving no stone unturned to support our Ukrainian friends. We have announced 6 tranches of military aid, both lethal and non-lethal, to Ukraine since February alone. This represents well over $100 million in military aid to Ukraine. In addition, we have assisted our allies in delivering aid to Ukraine via 21 flights on the C-130s Canada is providing for airlift support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, on a cold winter day in 2019, Dylan Paratus, Daniel Waldenberger-Balmer, and Andrew Dockrell climbed into a locomotive parked on a steep hill near Field, British Columbia. Minutes later, the brakes failed, the train ran away, and the 3 men plunged to their deaths. Now, the TSB just released a scathing report on that accident, saying, among other things, that CP Rail didn't listen to the safety concerns coming from their own workers. This government's hands-off approach to rail safety is killing railroaders. When will it stand up to big rail corporations and protect workers' lives?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, our thoughts continue to be with the families and friends of those who lost their lives on that tragic accident. We thank Transportation Safety Board of Canada for completing a thorough investigation. The investigation report was released today. We're going to examine it, Mr. Speaker. We're going to act upon it, and we're going to build on the interim measures that we put immediately after the accident. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure my colleague and every member of this House and every Canadian, safety is our top priority, and we will continue to do everything we can to maintain the highest level of safety here in Canada.
Good job, the honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Canadians were horrified to see General Vance walk away without consequence after allegations of sexual misconduct and obstruction. Women in the armed forces continue to wait for a real culture change in the face of sexual misconduct and assault. And yet, even though the Liberals have promised action for 7 years, the minister has said they will wait again for yet another report. How many reports do they need? Instead of delaying action when the solutions are known, will the government implement the Deschamps report so women get action now?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government takes all allegations of misconduct seriously, and we are committed to taking strong action on any allegation that is brought forward, no matter the rank, no matter the position, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to supporting survivors, and that's why we've committed over $236 million through Budget 2021 to eliminate sexual misconduct and gender-based violence in the CAF. We've transferred misconduct cases to the civilian system, and we passed the Victims' Bill of Rights. And, Mr. Speaker, that is only the beginning. Thank you.
The honourable member from London West.
Mr. Speaker, as Women's History Month is coming to an end today, women still face systemic barriers to participate in our economy. And there is still a lot of work that needs to be done for women entrepreneurs, especially those who are underrepresented. Women should be celebrated every day and have equal chances to prosper. In 2018, our government announced the first ever women entrepreneurship strategy, and this program represents $6 billion investments to advance women's economic empowerment. Can the Minister of International Trade and Export Promotion, Small Business and Economic Development update us on the program and how the program contributes to advancing gender equality and women's participation in the economy?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague from London West for her leadership and for her hard work. Our government continues to move the dial for women entrepreneurs and businesses by investing in their growth and in their success. Recently, I announced $55 million investment for women-owned businesses looking for loans under $50,000, an additional $25 million to further build out an ecosystem of support focused on underrepresented women. By the way, this ecosystem has already helped 5,000 women businesses grow, 7,000 start their business, and if you don't measure it, you're not going to get any improvement. So we also invested $4.2 million in the Knowledge Hub. I want to thank the Canadian women entrepreneurs for all they're doing to the Canadian economy and help grow.
Good, Speaker. The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, Unifor issued a news release on their meeting with the Minister of Fisheries, which stated the minister said her goal was to leave as many fish in the water as possible, and that fishermen would need to sacrifice their jobs for climate change. You said that? In a statement responding to the release, the minister did not deny this. Is the minister's actual goal to shut down the fishing industry?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My goal is to grow the fish and seafood industry, and for that we need sustainable stocks. I have been misquoted at times. And I will make decisions when stocks are in very critical state. I will make decisions that enable us to protect and grow them so that we can have sustainable fish and seafood and a growing fish and seafood industry for the generations to come.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
I'm sure your NDP dance partner loves that you trash the Unifor Union. Yesterday, the minister shut down the Atlantic mackerel fishery. Mackerel is the...
Well, it's not so much as just back up and maybe take away that trash comment there. The Honourable Member of South Shore St. Margaret's.
Yesterday, the minister shut down the Atlantic mackerel fishery. Mackerel is what we use for bait in the lobster fishery. Lobstermen in Maine used tons of carp this year for bait. Yet the minister refuses to approve alternative bait methods over the concern of them becoming invasive species. I got a news flash for the minister. Lobster bait is dead, rotting fish and can't reproduce and therefore not a threat. Without other types of bait, there is no lobster fishery. Will the minister reverse this harmful decision?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, and I do recognize that this decision on mackerel fishing will have an impact on some harvesters. The mackerel stock has been in very critical state for many, many years, and it needs a break so that it can recover and be there as bait for the lobster and crab fishers. And that's why I gave almost 2 months' notice, so that the harvesters can find those alternative sources of bait, which do exist and are available in their communities. These stocks are important for other fish like cod, salmon, and tuna, and I know that the member wants to see those fish have something to eat too.
The Honourable Member for Coast of Bays, Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, mackerel harvesters and processors are in shock after this minister closed this year's Atlantic mackerel fishery. Last year, harvesters in my riding witnessed an excessive abundance of mackerel, but much later than usual. They've observed changes in migration and spawning patterns, yet DFO science has not evolved with ecosystems. For years, harvesters have lobbied to become involved in mackerel research surveys like in other North Atlantic countries. Does the minister care about the economic impact of her decision, or is she just concerned with pleasing environmental activists?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as I already mentioned, the mackerel stocks have been in very critical state for a decade. And the time has come to give them a chance to regenerate and rebound, because we need mackerel stock for our fishers, for bait, for the very lucrative crab and lobster fishery, but for the whole ecosystem. So I am sure that the member opposite would not want to be presiding over the extinction of such an important fish. We're going to protect it and regenerate it for the generations to come.
Good job.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
After she was defeated in the last general election, the former Minister of Fisheries issued temporary moderate livelihood lobster licenses to 4 First Nations for the lobster season that ends in May. The former minister had the right and ability to impose conditions on the fishery in return for the issuing of these licenses, which would sell in today's marketplace for over $1 million. So did the former defeated minister put in place a condition that these licenses were not to be fished outside the DFO's commercial regulated seasons for lobster fishing areas 33, 34, and 35? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know how important the lobster fishery and all fisheries are to the communities in Atlantic Canada as well as on the Pacific. And I also know how important it is for reconciliation with Indigenous peoples that they are able to satisfy their court-ordered or moderate livelihood fisheries rights. With respect to the question, I'm happy to look into it for the member. We do our very best to work with Indigenous peoples to satisfy their rights and work with harvesters to make sure they're included in any changes of quota that will affect them.
Bravo. Good job.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, we need airlift with chartered flights to go and get to Ukrainian refugees. The president of the Quebec wing of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Michael Schweck, said this: "This is a good thing. For example, if a mother is with her 2 children in Poland, she has to find and pay herself for plane tickets, so that's an obstacle. If the government can help at this level, then that makes it easier for her." Mr. Speaker, that's what Ukrainians are calling for these displaced Ukrainian mothers and their children. When will we get airlift? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is essential for Canada to welcome as many Ukrainian refugees as possible who are fleeing this horrific war.
As possible. That's why we introduced new expedited programs, and I'm pleased to share that more than 12,000 Ukrainians have arrived in Canada already this year, with another 12,000 who've been approved just in the past 2 weeks, and previous to the new program coming on, an additional more than 7,500. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to welcome tens of thousands of Ukrainians. We're having conversations with the private sector to see what we can do to bring people here as quickly as possible. Every day we're working to introduce new measures to not just get people here, but support them after they arrive.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, let's come back to the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. It was asked yesterday what more the Canadian government can do to help. Its answer: simplify the visa application system and help with travel. Send planes to bring these good people to Canada, because right now they have to find and pay for the tickets themselves and find their way to Canada. Mr. Speaker, those people moved heaven and earth to flee the war, and the minister has to do the same to bring them to Canada. It's been a month now, Mr. Speaker, that we've been calling on the minister to put in place airlift and to charter flights. The Honourable Minister of Immigration. The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
I'm the Honourable Member that typically refugee resettlement programs take years to implement to welcome people in large numbers. Over the past number of weeks, we have implemented new programs to allow those in Canada to stay. We have waived fees for new applications. We have found every application with a Ukrainian national in our queue already and are processing it in a priority way. We introduced a new program so people could get here in 2 weeks. We just this week have extended new settlement supports to make sure people have language training, that they have access to employment assistance. We're continuing to do everything we can to support people. We will not stop, and we will continue to introduce new measures to make it easier for them to get here.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for North Okanagan, Shuswap.
When the government's decision put salmon farms on the Discovery Islands on notice, there was no transition plan for affected workers. Now, 15 months later, the government has spent over $20 million in PR exercises, but not a dime for worker transitions. The government's decision on Discovery Islands, the deadline is 3 months away, and still no transition support for the workers who have lost or will lose their jobs. Will the government provide targeted transition resources for displaced workers?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard.
Mr. Speaker, I am committed to implementing a responsible plan to transition away from open net pen salmon farming in coastal British Columbian waters. As confirmed by my mandate letter and my being a West Coaster, I know just how important this transition will be. Last year, the department held preliminary engagements with First Nations and many other stakeholders. That report was published last July and will be critical in developing our plan forward. We're going to do a lot more consultation, and Budget 2021 provided funds to do just that.
Honourable Member for North Okanagan, Shuswap.
Still no answer for workers. The minister told the Fisheries Committee regarding the expropriation of quota from crab and elver fishers that, quote, no decisions have been made on either the crab or elver fishery, end quote. Yet DFO officials have written the crab fishers that the quota cut of 50% was final. They also told elver fishers that the 14% cut was final. Does the minister understand that this will hurt the industry and kill jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Indigenous communities have a court-ordered right to fish in their traditional waters or right to fish for a moderate livelihood. And so it's a principle of our government to satisfy those rights. There's not always the ability to add quota to satisfy those rights and maintain conservation of the stock for the long term, which is absolutely critical. And so that's why we've been in consultation with the crab fishers and the elver harvesters to have an industry-led way forward on these matters.
Great answer.
The Honourable Member from Montmagny-Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, harbors are the Trans-Canada Highway for our commercial fishery. Without them, impossible to fish. This is a collective asset for all the countries, but the Liberals don't see the Small Craft Harbor Support Program as a collective program. It's only for them. In 2021, 74% of all projects went to Liberal ridings. 15 out of 19 ridings which received more than one project were Liberal. 20 out of 24 of the largest projects went to Liberal ridings. So why are public funds being used for partisan purposes, Mr. Speaker? As my friend from Lévis-Lobinière says, it's a scandal. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. This small craft harbor support program is something that ensures subsistence fisheries. Fisheries, agriculture reinforce the resilience of rural and coastal communities. This is a nonpartisan program, Mr. Speaker, and the Conservatives did not invest in ports when they were in office, but we have invested $1 billion in new funding for the Small Craft Harbor program.
Great fisheries questions. The
Honourable Member for Malcorel-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, as we all know, the first half of tax season is now over, and millions of Canadians have already filled out and submitted their tax returns. Many others are about to do the same in the coming days and weeks. Can the Minister of National Revenue tell us more about how the tax season is unfolding this year to date? Thank you. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Malcorel-Fortin for his question and his tireless work. Tax season is well underway, and that is thanks to all CRA employees who do extraordinary work day after day. I would also like to take the time to remind Canadians that they must file their tax returns before the deadline to ensure that they get their benefits and credits as rapidly as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, invasive zebra and quagga mussels are devastating the ecology of waterways, harming natural species, ruining beaches, and costly to waterway infrastructure. Last summer, 17 boats were confirmed carrying invasive mussels coming into British Columbia. With the summer fast approaching, we can't have another year of inaction. DFO has a responsibility to stop the spread. What is the NDP Liberal minister's plan to stop the spread of invasive mussels from coming to Western Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my department is very seized with preventing and dealing with invasive species that are indeed a scourge of Canadian waters from east to west. We recently actually stopped quagga mussels or zebra mussels from coming.
Order. As much as I like the fisheries questions, I like the fishery answers. And I want to be able to hear them. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as I was saying, my department and I have a very important responsibility to stop and to prevent and reduce invasive species in the waters across Canada. Zebra mussels were discovered through work that my ministry did with our border agency coming into Canada through aquarium supplies, and we stopped that. So this is something we're seized with. We'll continue to work on it, and our budget allows us to do just that. Thank you.
That was close. We're getting closer. The Honourable Member for Coast Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, salmon anglers in my province have been told that a decision is being made to stop all retention of salmon in the upcoming season. Last year, the Exploits River had returns that were nearly double the average returns for the past 10 years. Stopping salmon retention will take anglers off the rivers and put poachers in the driver's seat. Given that many rivers were stable or up in their returns last year, there's no reason to take away the right to retain salmon. In fact, retention of salmon can be increased. Will the minister allow local anglers to retain salmon this year in Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would say on both coasts, west and east, wild salmon are incredibly important to our government and to the people of this country. And so any measures that we put in place is to protect and to help regrow the stocks of wild salmon. We're very engaged with the sports fisher community on both coasts. In fact, I met with a group of sport fishers just yesterday who are salmon fishers. Yes, we want to enable the sport fishing community to be able to fish, and at the same time, we're working with them and others to make sure that we sustain these populations, regrow them for the generations to come.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow the tax on beer, wine and spirits will increase automatically thanks to this government's excise escalator. But today, I tabled Bill C-266 to repeal this automatic annual tax increase. Under this government, simple pleasures like enjoying a beer with friends after work or a bottle of wine over dinner with a loved one are increasingly unaffordable for working people. Will this government give Canadian brewers, vintners, distillers, and especially consumers a break and support Bill 266?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will wait another week to see all the great contents of Budget 22, but what I can do is use this opportunity to hold the Conservatives accountable for their own record on affordability. So let's get into it. We lowered the taxes for the middle class twice, raised them on the wealthiest 1%, and what did the Conservatives do? They voted against. We created the Canada Child Benefit and indexed it. What did the Conservatives vote? Against. We got tourism businesses all the way through Omicron, and what did the Conservatives do? They voted against. We will stand for Canadians and affordability, Mr. Speaker, each and every day.
A lively bunch. I mean, it's only Thursday. The Honourable Member for Etobicoke Centre.
Thanks very much, Speaker. Over a month ago, Russia began an unprovoked full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian people have been very courageous in defending their homeland, but the situation is dire. They are fighting for their very existence. There is a humanitarian crisis, and this is a threat to Canada's security, to global security, to Europe's security. So Ukrainians are not only fighting for themselves, but they're fighting for us. Could the Minister of Foreign Affairs please share with Canadians what Canada is doing to support the people of Ukraine?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you. I would like to thank my honourable colleague for his important question. Canada has one of the strongest relationships in the world with Ukraine, and we stand with Ukrainians in the face of this further invasion by Russia. We'll continue to put maximum pressure on the Russian regime. We have imposed strong sanctions. We will send more lethal weapons, but we know we have to do more, and we will do more. And that is the reason why, Mr. Speaker, more sanctions are coming.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, Tlailquit member Lisa Marie Young was 21 when she went missing in my riding of Nanaimo Ladysmith. It's been 20 years, and still, Lisa's loved ones have no answers. Indigenous women, girls, and 2SL LGBTQIA+ individuals continue to go missing or murdered. Indigenous women are at least 4.5 times more likely to be murdered than non-Indigenous. How many lives need to be lost for the Liberals to set timelines and real resources to address this crisis?
No, sorry, I'm losing track. The Honourable Member for Sydney Victoria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank the member opposite for her intervention and her passion on this subject. Our government is committed to working with Indigenous stakeholders all across this country to make sure that we move forward on the missing and murdered Indigenous women's calls to justice. In fact, we put $2.2 billion in a 5-year federal action plan to make sure that we're addressing that, make sure that we see tangible results, but make sure, most importantly, that we keep Indigenous women across this country safe and supported. Thank you.
And that's all the time for question period today, but before we all run out, I just wanted to make the actual formal introduction. I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery, an all-women delegation and members of the Ukrainian Parliament, the Verkhovna Rada. Can you please rise and receive the